We'd like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which this podcast was produced, the Gadigal people of the Eora Nation. We pay our respects to elders past and present. This episode contains discussion of eating disorders. If this raises any issues for you, support is available through the links and phone numbers in the show notes.
It's mid-July 2002 and Pam Reed is lacing up her running shoes. The track she's following today is well worn. It was first run over 20 years ago. Since then, countless people have attempted it. Many have failed and few have made it across the finish line. And there's a good reason for that. The Badwater Ultramarathon is a 135-mile race across California's Death Valley. This time of the year, weather conditions are at their most extreme, reaching temperatures of 54 degrees. The course starts at the lowest elevation in the United States, 282 feet below sea level, and pushes runners over 8,000 feet above. Pam is one of 79 runners who've come to take it on. Today, she'll beat every single one of them. In fact, her closest competitor will finish 5 hours after she does. I'm Middleton, and this is Head Game. Today, an ultra-marathon legend on what it takes to go the distance. Listen, Pam, when myself and the team typed up badass, you came up, your name came up, and we thought, well, I've got to get you in because, some of the challenges that you've done, some of the world records that you've got are absolutely phenomenal. How did you fall in love, not only with running, but running until your bloody feet fall off? How did that happen, and when did you get into it?
Well, I grew up in the Upper Peninsula of Michigan, so I don't know if you guys know where that is, but it's extremely cold. But I was really active as a child. So I was a gymnast, a cheerleader, I played tennis, and I ran a little bit of track, which I hated track, but that was in my younger days. And then I wanted to play a sport in college. So in high school, at 15 years old, my tennis coach said, you should run to get in shape. So I just started running 3 miles a day, and I decided to do that every single day. So, and it's not, I don't have a run streak, but that's what I started with. And then I went to college, and I would run 3 times a day. And this is way back when I was 21. So from 21 on, I ran 3
times a day.
Mm-hmm.
And run me through that routine. What morning, afternoon, and night, or did you just when you felt like running?
No, morning, noon, and night. Like when I woke up, 6 a.m., 5 a.m., I'd go run. Then noon, I would run. And then at 5 o'clock, or, when my kids were in practice, I would run again.
Pam, it sounds like that you were addictive to running, or was it controlled?
No, I would say it was probably addictive. And in my mind, in order to be an ultra runner, I think you have to be a little over the top, and because that's the kind of the nature of the game, right? But when I got into ultra running, is how I got into that. Is my current husband is a CPA, and he had a client, Benny Linkart, who was 60 years old, and he was training for the Leadville Trail 100, and I'm like, what? Who runs 100 miles? I mean, no way could I do 100 miles. So he introduced me to Benny. We went for a really long run, like a 17-mile run on this trail called Bear Canyon. It's in Tucson. Rocky, single track trail, partially some road. And he just took me through it and showed me, this is totally possible to do. So that's how I started. And then my husband and I signed up for a 100K and then a 100-miler, and it's all history from there. Yeah, my first 100-miler was in 1992, and Jim and I did it together. He had a drop at 50 miles, and I'm like, okay, are you okay if I keep going? And I didn't even let him answer, and poof, I was gone. It took me forever though.
Because if you're not, I'm going anyway.
Yeah,
See you
yeah,
later.
yeah. We've gone this far. I got to finish this stupid thing. Yeah. So it's 100-mile runs are. I probably again. I just finished my 113th 100-mile run or more. So right now I'm at 113.
Pam, there must have been a moment when you realised, well, actually, I am wired a bit different. I can keep on going. I have got lungs like, black bin bags. When did you realise that actually, I'm just a bit different. I can keep going. I can move on, and then obviously moving on to some of the bigger challenges, like in 2002 when you took on the Badwater ultra marathon. Was there a time or a moment that you thought, wow, I am different?
Well, you know what? I think what it is for some reason I was born. What came really naturally to me was visualization. So when I picture it in my mind, then I'm like, I can do this. So my first Ironman, for instance, was my husband and I. We would go ride, but we were riding together and on our bikes. And he just the whole time would tell me about the course. It was the Ironman Canada in Penticton. And I just visualized it. So I got to the race and I didn't even realize there were hills in the ride, which it's a really hilly course. And when I got off the bike, I was third woman overall. And I wasn't a professional. These were behind the professionals. And I didn't even feel like I rode a bike. And it was, wow. I swear it was because I did that course over and over and over in my head. So now I do that all the time. And I get a gut feeling like when I was about to do that 300-mile run, I just thought about it. And I thought, I know I can do that.
Yeah, I get you. Yeah, when you visualize something and you manifest it time and time again. I have similar things when I used to go on operations. For example, when I climbed Mount Everest, it was the same. I just visualized myself walking up the mountain, getting to the top, coming back down safely, and doing that route, camp 1, camp 2, camp 3, I get the visualization. And when you manifest as well, I suppose it's that positive energy that in your head, like you just said, I can do this. It's that self-belief, because without that, you're not going to make it past the first few miles, are you? You've got to believe in yourself, and you've got to make sure that the vision is clear and it's positive.
Yeah. Oh, yes. And it's so I'm sure you've heard of Courtney Dauwalter, and her and I we were in a little talk before Hard Rock this year, and I had done like the week before that I ran Badwater, and I said in Badwater I was getting really negative. And so what she said she does is she goes into a pain cave and pretends she's chiseling, and I could not make myself do that. And it's really hard sometimes to get yourself back from when you're just feeling so miserable, So I pulled myself out of it, and I said, I know I can do this. I'm going to do this. I'm going to finish this race, and just keep putting one foot in front of the other and keep going.
And what was the moment that you thought, right, I'm going to do the Badwater ultramarathon? Because that, you don't just sign up for that. That's something that you obviously need to train for. You need to have the right mindset for, because there's not many people that even sign up for it, let alone complete it. What made you want to do that race in general? What made you think, right, I'm just going to give this a go?
Well, that's an interesting story too, because unfortunately, just 2 days ago, I went to Chuck Giles' his celebration of life. He passed away about a month ago, I think. And Chuck he went to Badwater in 2001. So he came back and he rode bikes with a really good friend of mine. And he goes, Pam, you got to do this race, Badwater. And I said, well, what is it? And he's telling me it was 135 miles, and it could be, 128 degrees. And I said, forget it, no way. So I told my husband about it, and he looked it up, and there was a movie called Running on the Sun, and I watched it. And when I watched it, I saw a lot of hype in there. Like they showed people with blisters and a drama, and I don't know if do you ever remember in the United States, we had a show called, oh my gosh, it was called Wide World of Sports, way back in the day. And on it, we would watch it. And on one day, Western States 100-mile run was on it. And also the Badwater was on it. And for some reason, I just said, you know what, I'm gonna do that someday. Not Badwater, I'm sorry. You know what, Western States and the Hawaiian Ironman. But in those, when they showed them, it was so drama driven. So I had done Western States, and I could see that it's not as drama driven as they made it sound like. So I just thought, you know, that it can't be that bad. And I mean, it was bad, but again, the Chuck, who came, you know what he did? He designed this spray system for Death Valley. And so when I was running, every half mile, they would crew me, and they would give me one person I was drinking, the only thing I drank way back then was Ensure. So I would take a drink of Ensure, a drink of water, a drink of Red Bull, and then they would spray me down. And that's what I would do. We did that every half mile for 135 miles. And
wow.
The spraying kept me cool. And then we added, you know, I had an ice sock on, and nobody else in the race had that. So, you know, that's why the race today it's gotten so much faster. Well, another reason it's gotten so much faster is now they can't run it during the day.
Oh, really? You can't run the journey, the route that you done back in 2002 and 3, you can't run it?
Well, we run that route, but they start at night. So picture, you know,
right.
Desert at night compared to desert. It's not really cool. At the starting line this year, it was 107, and but there was no sun beating on us. So yeah, so it's you still have to take care of yourself, and you have to be cognizant. But it's not, you know, back then it was 125 or 6 or 8, and it just beats on you, and it's scary. Like, you know, your legs get so hot, and so they keep spraying you down. And then that's when people get blisters, because when they're spraying you down, the water goes into your shoes. And so we just try to really make sure that my feet didn't get wet. But what's ironic is I think I've done Badwater. I have 12 finishes, 14 starts. And out of those 12, half and half, I had blisters for half of them, and half of them I didn't.
Break it down for us a little bit, and also, you know, just take us back to that start line when you're there.
They have 3 starts. So in 2002, or it might have been 25 to 30 in each wave. So we were at 6 o'clock, 8 o'clock, and 10 o'clock. So in 2002, I started at 6 a.m. And it was, the cool thing about at 6 a.m., the sun was low enough, it was behind the mountain. So it wasn't blaring on us for maybe an hour or hour and a half. And
I love, Pam, how you just like an hour, you know, that's nothing. Before you know it, you know, for the rest of the time, you've got that sun beating down on you. But you know, you're grateful for an hour. It just made me smile. That did, Pam. So you start at 6. You're grateful that the sun's not pounding on your neck and on your head. And you in the first wave or the second wave?
We were in the first wave, but the third wave, the 10 a.m. wave, is considered the competitive wave.
And that was your first one, right? That was your
Yes.
first one. That's amazing. So you're in the first wave because they think, right, we get the amateurs started first, but you set off in the first wave, and you absolutely annihilate everyone, don't you?
Yeah, and well, what happened is that, you know, I was running normal. I mean, slow, but because they were taking care of me every half mile, I would see these people walking out there, and they have, you know, they run on the water, and then they get to their car maybe at 1 mile, 2 miles. And so I was in front of everybody in my wave by the time I got to mile 17. And then, so we basically ran the race kind of by ourselves, me and my crew, for the whole race from mile 17 on. There was nobody with us. So it was just so much fun. We were just talking, and they were taking care of me. And it was one of those races that, it was unbelievable. But I think at mile 70, this race, I thought, I didn't even stop, because they had it set up where I could just keep running, spray me down, feed me, keep going. So at mile 70, I thought, I think I should stop. I think I have a rock in my shoe. So I took my shoe off and I dumped it out and there was nothing there. And I put it back on. It must have been a blister. And it's like, okay, forget that. I'm not going to think about that. So as I kept running, it hurt a little. And then I just felt like relief and it must have popped itself. And then I was fine. So, but mile 100 of that race, the race director came up to me on a motorcycle and he said, you're going to win. If you keep this pace up, you're going to win. And I said, well, what about the 8 and 10 o'clock? And he said, they're so far behind me that they're not going to be able to even come within 4 hours of me, because that's what, they started 4 hours, because we started at 6 and they started at 10.
Did that motivate you, Pam? Was that motivation? Because for me, I would have been like that. Well, listen, guess what? I'm not stopping. I don't care if I've got 10 hours in front. I'm not going to waste a minute. Was that a great motivation for you?
Yes, I just started running faster and faster. It was so much fun. You feel so light. You're thinking, and I haven't won that many races, so it was like, oh my gosh, this is really cool. And so we got up to the finish line. We finished. We get our buckle, get back in the car, go back to the hotel room down in Lone Pine, take a shower, eat. And then we saw the first man come through Lone Pine. He was
5 hours later.
Yeah.
5 hours later. Pam, when I read that, and I thought, especially with racing, every minute counts, and then you go on to the sprinting, it's like every second counts, every millisecond. And it's strange because you never mention too much of the hardships. And I know it's extremely painful. It takes a lot of discipline but it seems like that you just have this knack or this talent, which I've met only a rare handful of people can keep going, keep fighting through those pain barriers. Is it something, with your anatomy, is there something different about you?
Well, no, I don't think especially now, I know there's nothing different about me, but that, at certain races, to be so far ahead of people like that, it was so motivating. It was really amazing, but it was because of our system. That's really what was.
Oh, you believe that it's the system that you had the system, you had the right team behind you, you had that down to a T.
I did, and the other thing, I had the mindset that, and I had the mindset also. Was really amazing with my crew. They were totally into it. So in the years, now that I'm so much older and done so many of these, that makes a big difference to me that the crew is having a good time and they're enjoying themselves, because I feel so guilty about them being out there, but they were loving it. They had so much fun, and also it was the newness. I'd never been to Death Valley. It's gorgeous. I love I love the desert, and that particular desert it's a lot different than Arizona. As we speak right now, I'm in Scottsdale, Arizona, and I love saguaros, and I love the mountains, and it's so pretty. But so Death Valley is this. It feels like you're underneath the sea, which is probably really what it was.
You use basically absolutely every single part of your mind to escape the pain that's happening in the now, and that really seems to work for you. And you're extremely humble in saying, it's the structure, it's the team, but the discipline, especially having children, the discipline and the sacrifice that it takes to be able to achieve something like that, that goes on behind the scenes. That's extremely difficult as well, isn't it?
Yeah. It's so funny how even right now, because I'm still running. Right now I'm injured at this moment, but I don't feel like I'm any different than anybody else. And it's my husband said to me the other day, we were sitting in the jacuzzi. He goes, "You're really hardcore," and I'm like, I don't feel like I'm hardcore. And he said, he goes, if you're not hardcore, there's nobody hardcore. But I don't feel that way. It just, this has come, I'm blessed. Okay. I'm really blessed with energy. I have so much energy, but I'm also, we talked about addiction. It's either addiction or ADHD or, but I have to move. I have got to move. And the more I move, the more I want to move, and the further you can go. And it's not, no, is it easy all the time? 100% not. But I want to live my life to the absolute fullest every single day. So when I hit that pillow, I'm exhausted. I want to do that every day. That's my goal. I love to go running at 5. I love to run in the dark because you have no you're there alone. And today I was out running, and it was, there were like 3 people, and we all had our headlamps on, and it's just gorgeous. It's peaceful. Yeah, you get to see, and then when the sun rises, and I love watching the sun rise, and I love watching it set. I like running at both those times, like when the sun is setting, and then you're gonna come into the night running. It's just, and then unfortunately when you have these races, which I do a lot of, you get the next sunrise, and then the next sunrise. I've done these races where it took me 3 days. This past April, I was running a march. I ran a 100-mile run pulling a sled called the Drift, and there were 2 blizzards.
Know it well.
In it. Yeah, and it took me like 52 hours, no sleep.
So in 2002, you win by 5 hours. What's going through your head? Because obviously then all of a sudden you become, this name in the ultra running world, right? It's like this, have you heard of this Pam? She's just ran the Badwater ultra marathon, 5 hours in front of everyone. Would you say that changed you as an individual in the running world?
Yeah, it totally changed my life. When I crossed the finish line, I had this. It was the strangest feeling. I had this overwhelming sense of peace. It just was such a great feeling, But the what I found when you do these races is the second you finish, though, then people are asking, well, what are you doing next? What are you doing next? And then I have to start thinking, okay, I don't know what I'm doing next. And at first I thought, I'm never going to do this again because I'll never have that feeling and be able to it was a...
So it's one-off unique, isn't it? It's one-off unique.
Yes.
It doesn't matter if you run the same race 100 times. It's just that unique way. And you almost don't want to ruin it, do you?
No, I didn't. And then, of course, I don't even know why, but I decided to do it again. So when we went for 2002, all of a sudden, because I told everybody, well, I'm going to win. I mean, I won by so much, right? Well, we get out there, and I'm not winning. And I was 3rd overall, and it was like, oh, no, now I'm 3rd overall, because that's the way I thought of running now, just for those short little times. But it's cool. I love to be outside, and everybody asks me what's your favorite race, and I keep saying, well, I guess it should be Badwater because it's so unique there. It's really a cool place, and having your crew, like your crew is your aid station. That's the other really cool part about it, because you're working as a team, and running, isn't really a team sport, but Badwater, it really is, because if you didn't have them, you would not finish. So you have to have a really good crew. And in trail running, you're out there alone. And so it's kind of you. And some of them, you get to see crew at certain spots, which is fun, is really nice. But, basically you're on your own most of the time.
So you go back 2000, then in 2003, and then in 2005. I can't imagine how you ever came up with wanting to run over 300 miles in one go. What was the thought process, Pam, behind that? Because I'm fascinated to know, and like you said, something will pop up in your head. And when did that pop up in your head to think, do you know what, I'm going to run this course?
So when I won Badwater, both in 2002, 2003, I got mentioned in Runner's World, like in a little blurb inside. But in 2004, when Dean won, he was on the cover. So when he was on the cover, my husband was reading the article, because I never read this stuff at all. And Dean said he wanted to run 300 miles without sleep. So my husband goes, "Do you think you could do that?" And it took me about a day to figure it out. Like I went running and it came to me like, yeah, I can run 300 miles without sleep. So that's when I called Chuck, who he was the crew chief, and he said, yeah, let's just put a little thing together. So we went on a frontage road in Tucson, and I went back and forth for 15 miles one direction and back and forth and back and forth. And then, so we ran 301 miles just to make sure it was over 300.
just to put the middle finger up at that cover. Do you think that was that a bit of a kick in the teeth when you'd won 2 back to back, and then someone wins the 2005 and they get put on the front cover? And not a kick in the teeth as in that you're raw and bitter, but more for motivation. Do you think that the women's running world was being not misrepresented, but wasn't being taken seriously because of what happened?
Yeah, and don't get me wrong. I mean, Dean is a really good-looking guy, so he was a good person to put on a cover. But yeah, it was like, well, why would they? This is something that hardly ever happened. And Ann Trace had probably won overall. She had to have in some races way back. But so it seemed like a way bigger deal. So, and I didn't. So it was motivating. Yes, that's what it was. It was motivating. So that's fun.
And so then you're like, right, listen, I'll show you. You think you can do 300 miles? I'm going to do 301 miles. And you run that. Is it 74 hours back to back? Is that right? Am I hearing that? Did I read that correctly?
Yeah, without sleep. And
how?
You get really tired, and then you're kind of moving really slowly, and you get through it. You know how it really. So when I was out there, people came and ran with me. Back then there was no social media, so the word got out. I think on the CB radio, because it was right by the freeway.
Yeah.
So these people in trucks. So anyway, a guy came out and ran with me, and he might have heard of it because in our Tucson running community, he came out and he had been in the military, and he goes, they make us stay up for 3 nights. Is that true? Were you in the military? I don't know. He said they stayed up for 3 nights. So I'm like, it can be done. Obviously, so I'm going to just do it. So I did it.
And do you know what? It is 3 nights, and that's really, really, really pushing it. That is, I would say, on the limit of what is achievable. Can you just talk me through, what that routine was like? Was it every couple of hours that they were ramming food down your neck? How did that work to last for 74 hours? Let's not forget non-stop running.
It was constant. It wasn't every 2 hours. I mean, there was somebody with me, like they'd run with me, or a car, just like in Badwater, could come up. We had the start-finish line, so to speak, and I'd have some real food there, spaghetti, hamburgers, whatever. That's what I would eat at that. So that would be 30 miles. But in between, they would give me. I mean, I had sandwiches, Ensure, potato chips, just you name it, I had it. Just eat and drink and drink and drink, and you can never get enough in. But it was at the last. I started getting really sleepy, like the last 15 miles, and I was having a hard time eating. So a friend of mine came out there, and she just opened my mouth and shoved Ensure down my throat, and then all of a sudden I felt better again. So it absolutely, you have to have calories, and luckily during that whole time I didn't get sick at all. So that was nice. But it was also really nice because it wasn't a race, so there were no other competitors, which kind of makes it way easier, right? Because you're all by yourself and you're doing your own thing. Even though I was running the whole time, I didn't ever have to push because somebody else was there.
You must have mastered the art, Pam, of falling asleep on your 2 feet, like we do in the. Were there times where you just sort of came to and you were running?
Well, I've been able to do just recently. I don't know how many, 3-4 years ago. There's a race called Cocodona 250, and I did Cocodona 250 with sleep. Well, I think I might have slept for 3 hours, and that was 250 miles, which was not 300, but it also was on a really, were trails. So you're climbing up mountains and rocks and blah, blah, blah. So I don't think I require as much sleep as normal people. but with that being said, I've been listening to tons of podcasts, and they're saying how important sleep is. I'm lucky, but now as I get older, I really cannot. If I sleep 8 hours, it's really too much for me, and I feel more tired. So I do better on 6 or 7.
Because you're on the move so much, do you just have to constantly eat? What's your appetite like? Because, you must burn some calories.
Well, I must, but unfortunately, no, I do not eat a lot, and I don't. So in way back, before Badwater, actually, I was anorexic, and I survived that. I was anorexic from the time I was 15 to the time I was 30. And I did Badwater when I was, 41?
Was that harder for you? Or do you think it was because of the running that created, you were burning so many calories and you were addicted to the running, you just loved the ultra marathons, the endurance side of things? Do you think that played a part in being anorexic, the running, or not?
No. Well, a lot of people would say, that anorexics run to lose weight, or that's how they manage it. And honestly, my kind of running, I had to eat. So that's the last time I was in the hospital. I said, I'm just going to stop this. This is ridiculous. I have to fuel. So I used a different word, right? That I had to fuel myself so I could keep running. Because otherwise you can't do this stuff without eating. And when I say eat a lot, I probably was not eating a lot for what normal people do, but I mean, so drinking Ensure, there's 250 calories in it, so I drank a ton of that. And that, had enough good things in it for me to do it. And in the past years, I've changed that where, like, now I'll eat real food, like hamburgers and, pasta and all this other stuff. But the thing about Badwater is because of the temperatures, it's way easier to drink your calories there than to eat calories because your mouth is so dry. And so you have to, it depends on what kind of race you're doing, where it is, what's the temperatures, and on and on.
Wow. Do you think the team helped you through that? Do you think that's the reason why you enjoyed the ultra marathon so much, or the extreme long distance running, because there was a team there with you? Because suffering with anorexia and doing long distances by yourself, that could have been a very dark, lonely place, right?
Right. It is very. It's lonely, but partially I like to be alone, but it's nice to have them there. I mean, especially in some of these races where they're completely taking care of me. Because other times I can sort of figure it out, but it's difficult. Like when you're running, for instance, if you're doing Western States 100-mile run, that race, you'll come up and there's aid stations. But my problem is I forget to eat sometimes. If the 8 miles between them, so I won't eat anything. Then I'll eat when I get there, and so that's why I do better in a race like Badwater, because they're there taking care of me, making just putting the food in front of me. And I'll have the food with me when I'm running on trails, but I forget to eat sometimes. And that's...
Is that because you're so focused and not that you find it easier because, you put the hard work in, but ultimately it's running your own race, isn't it?
Yes, definitely. And on a given day, that's different. How it depends on how you feel before the event and then how you feel during the event. it's tricky. It's some days like you think, okay, this is exactly what I'm going to do, and you do that again, and it doesn't work the same. So that's why what I'm learning is I have to really remember to enjoy and soak in whatever I'm doing at the time, because you never know what's going to happen, the next time. So you just have to enjoy it while you're in the moment.
"74 hours, you run non-stop, 301 miles, back-to-back wins 2002, 2003 with Badwater. Surely you make the cover of a magazine. What happened after that achievement and that world record?"
Yeah, well, I got to get on, I was on David Letterman, but that was after 2003.
Yes?
Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
That's when you know you've made it, Pam. That's when you know you've made it.
That was fun. But well, it just, it's really interesting because I didn't know that people really knew who I was. And because what happened is when I got in the Badwater, I got into doing Badwater. So I kind of got out of doing a lot of trail runs, which most ultras in the US anyway are trail runs. So back then I stopped. I wasn't doing as many trail runs, but just recently, now all these people know who I am. And I'm like, how do you know who I am? And so it's a little weird, because I honestly don't think what I did is anything that other people couldn't do. And I look at it that way.
Pam, you're very, very modest, but you put, the women's ultra marathon running world on the map. It's your name. You wouldn't hear of women going the distance that you went and more, outrunning the men out. It just didn't happen, especially back in those days. And then you break through the mold. When did you actually realize, well, actually, I've made an impact in the running world as a woman? And I'm extremely proud of that.
Yeah, well, when I wrote my book, that was like in 2006, and I got to go to marathons and talk to people. I guess I still don't see myself in that light, and that's what's so odd. I don't ever see myself famous or people who know. That's why I'm always amazed. How do you know who I am? So inside of me, I don't feel any different. I feel like I go to any
no, that's
starting
important.
Right, any starting line. I have no idea. I mean, it was funny for a while there. I had a marathon down. I knew what I could run a marathon in, but in hundreds, it's really hard for me to know. Where I just go out there and I'm like, I'm going to do the best I can. I have no idea. And right as I'm getting older now, it's really different. And it's hard because I used to be, I would run whatever I was running. I would get in my place and nobody would pass me. But now a lot of people are passing because I'm older and I'm slower. And that's been really difficult. But I still want to do it. And so I have to just let my pride and ego say, forget about it. You're out here. Do the best you can.
It's such a huge achievement. And do you still run now? And you mentioned the marathons. What was your time in your head for the marathons? I know, like you said, with the ultra running, it's literally, you said it in the first couple of minutes, you said it's just putting one foot in front of the other. And it's, you just do the best you can, get into a position, try and keep that position. But with your marathons, what were you getting them down to?
Well, back again, when I was 41, I did a 2:59. And when I was 60, I did a 3:30. But these last 2 years, I've had some not fun things happen to me. In 2022, I was at an Ironman in St. George, and a spectator walked into my bike at 111 miles, and it's out of 112. And I fell. I was going 23 miles an hour. I broke my femur and my hip. So
what happened? Someone walked out in front of you?
Yeah, in back
you
of
are
me, into my
me.
bike. No, into my bike. It was awful. And so I had surgery. I have a plate in my right, on my femur, and then I have a screw in my right hip. So then I was all recovered, and I felt like I was all recovered. I did the 300s this summer. I did Western, Badwater, Hard Rock back to back to back. And then I was at the Hawaiian Ironman
You
in
are
October.
hardcore, Pam. Hardcore.
Well, then I was in Hawaii at the Ironman, and a friend of mine was there, and she's like, "Oh, let's go for a bike ride." This was Wednesday. The race was Saturday. So she and I were riding, we went on an 8-mile ride just to do a shakeout ride. And she hit the back of my bike, and I fell. And right now, I have a broken pelvis, my right side. So I'm 6 weeks in and recovering, but I ended up doing that full Ironman and not knowing that it was broken, but it killed during the run, which kind of turned into a walk run. But yeah, so this must be meant to be.
Pam, listen, when you say that you're not hardcore, I won't have it anymore. When did you realize that your pelvis was broken?
Well, just a couple days after the Ironman. Yeah, so it was.
How?
I got home. I went back to Scottsdale, and I saw a chiropractor, and I said, I think I have a hip flex problem here. And so he was feeling, and he goes, "I think you should go and get an MRI." So I went and got an MRI. That's it.
Sorry, I'm just sat here laughing because you're sat there as cool as a cucumber, just go, I've got a bit of a pain here, a bit of a pain there, and absolutely hardcore. How are you coping with, now that you're getting a little bit older, your body's naturally wearing and tearing, and you're picking up these injuries? Where's your head at right now, and things are starting to say slow down?
I'm not going to slow down. I feel like I am going to live life to the fullest, and I feel like I am just going to move until I'm totally dead. So I figure it out. Like right now, when I have a broken pelvis, I can do whatever I can do without pain. So I could ride a bike, I can go to hot yoga, and I can walk. So that's what I've been doing, and I've been starting to run a little because it's 6 weeks, but it's been difficult. It's just my mindset. Like I have to be okay with people passing me. That's just the bottom line. So I don't have to win. I didn't always win before, but it's a whole mindset that I just want to be out there enjoying the outdoors, being on these trails or roads or whatever I'm doing, getting to, like I said, I love the fresh air and being outside and all sorts of temperatures. I really like warm, but when you're running and it's raining, it's fun. I like it. I mean, it's a challenge.
You know what, Pam? You're one of these people that I wouldn't ask, how's life treating you? I say, how are you treating life? It seems like you squeeze absolutely every single drop out of it. Your mindset is phenomenal, super positive, because when I've been listening to you, you're drawing on all the positive experiences. Like now, I can still do my hot yoga. I can still get out and about. I can still cycle. You're not letting nothing hold you back. You are doing what can I do? What am I capable of? Where can I improve? Where can I get better? And that mindset, with a mindset like that, you're always going to be out and about. You're always going to be in that good headspace, and you're always going to keep moving, Pam. I can't see you stopping anytime soon. And to be fair, I hope you don't, because I know people like yourself. I'm very much like yourself, where I need to keep going. I think, just the thought in my head of stopping fills me with dread, and I can see that you're the same. You are phenomenal. Thank you ever so much for coming on. And listen, it's been an absolute pleasure talking to you. Thank you ever so much for your time and for coming on the podcast.
Oh, thanks for having me.
My guest today was Pam Reed. Thank you so much for joining me on Head Game. If you enjoyed this episode, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss out on any of our incredible stories, and leave me a review wherever you're listening. I'm Middleton. Catch you again next time.